Hi, I'd like to talk now about Kohlberg's theory of moral growth and development. As you know, there are 6 stages to moral development in Kohlberg's theory. 3 major levels and 6 stages. The first level is what he calls pre-conventional. This is a very immature stage or level of moral development. The first stage is punishment and obedience. This is what we see with small children who have not learned to speak clearly yet, or who don't understand commands, or even some who have learned, to speak, but still do not understand the concept of right and wrong. In that case, it's very difficult to reason with small children. You have to impose some kind of punishment to get them to behave, whatever that punishment may be. It doesn't have to necessarily be harsh, but it has to be enough to get them to not do something which is detrimental to their own well-being or to the well-being of people around them. So just saying to a small child, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't run out in the road, that's not nice, that's not a good parent. A good parent has to be much more forceful than that to protect your child's life. So some people get stuck in this pre-conventional stage, and throughout the rest of their lives will only behave when there's a threat of punishment, when there's someone around who can see them and cause trouble for them if they misbehave. Now the second stage, if the first stage is punishment, or let's say the stick, the second stage is the carrot. It's the stage of reward. He calls it instrumental and relative, or in other versions of the book he says instrument and relativity, whatever. What he's talking about is bribery, in a sense, that children realize that if they do certain things, people will be good to them. So, in a sense, children learn to sort of bribe other people and are in turn open to being bribed to do good things. So parents offer their children treats or special, going to the movies, candy, ice cream, whatever, things which the child likes, to get them to do what is the right thing to do. And in the same way, children will kind of like suck up to their parents, curry favor with their parents by doing certain things in order to get mommy and daddy, to buy you a new fire truck or whatever it is. So this kind of view of morality is based upon the idea of, you will only do what's right if there's something in it for you. And there are many adults who still remain in that stage of, what's in it for me? Why should I do this thing? What do I get out of it? And so instead of doing things because it's the right thing to do, people do the right thing, perhaps, simply because they're going to get some kind of reward for it. Now, the second level, or the conventional level, has 2 stages. The first one is what he calls the interpersonal concordance orientation, what I refer to as peer pressure. And the peer pressure stage is where people are concerned not so much about instant gratification or getting a specific reward, but about being accepted by their social group. They want to be acknowledged to be a good son or daughter, a good brother or sister, a good member of a social group, the in crowd, the jock crowd, the whatever crowd you're in, the gang. So people do what the gang determines to be, expected behavior. So their definition of right and wrong is simply whatever the group decides is right and wrong. That's why when we look at the question that I had posed a few weeks back about the manager who was willing to skip steps in product testing, Jim, in my opinion, was in stage 3, peer pressure, because he knew he was doing was wrong. He knew it was against company policy. He knew perhaps it was against the law even, but he was willing to do it because his immediate group, the other managers, the other guys around him at work, considered it to be okay to do that. So Jim's sort of compass of determining right and wrong was determined entirely by his immediate surrounding group of people who he worked with, whom he worked with. Now, some of you said that Jim was at stage 4, which is the law and order, the view of the wider society. I think not. I think that what Kohlberg means by this, the law and order orientation, is an orientation where your decisions about good and bad, right and wrong, are determined simply by the legal structure of the wider society, of the United States. In other words, if you behave in accordance with the law, you're a good person. If you behave in ways which are contrary to law, you're a bad person. So when we're thinking about moral issues, whether it's in business ethics or whatever, a person in stage 4 would say, well, I didn't break any laws. If I didn't break the law, then I'm okay. So this way of thinking is very much oriented toward letting the society at large, so the broader American society, or whatever society you belong to, French, British, German, anything, whatever, Nigerian, your society determines what's legal and illegal, and that becomes your definition of good and bad. The final level of moral growth is what he calls the post-conventional stage, and Kohlberg says that the post-conventional level, stage 5 in this level, is the social contract orientation, and this is a stage in which people have their own moral principles to some degree, but they're not completely certain about them, and they admit that other people may also have competing moral principles, and so they are willing to sit down like congressmen and negotiate to compromise their principles in order to resolve any discrepancies or differences with other people. So the idea here is that people are not committed to a specific set of principles, but are committed to the idea of talking reasonably with other people to try and find something that everyone can agree on. The final stage of moral development, Kohlberg calls the universal ethical principles stage. This refers to someone like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., someone who committed his life to ending segregation because he felt that there was a higher law than the law of the land. So he's transcending, or attempting to transcend, American law and say, well, I believe that there is a higher law and that we need to adhere to that higher law, and even if I go to jail, the thing that made Dr. King so special was the fact that he wasn't opposed to going to jail. If people wanted to imprison him for his beliefs, that was fine. He was okay with that, because he felt, okay, as an American citizen, I have to obey the law or accept the consequences. But he knew that by being imprisoned in a way which he felt was totally unjust and unrighteous, this would only help his cause. So he was not sort of destructive, but he was very militant in his views of opposing segregation, but it was a non-violent militancy, and he really put his life on the line for what he believed, and eventually was killed. And he knew he would probably be killed, but he didn't really care about that. He felt that what he was doing transcended his own life, and this is an example of someone who's committed to an ultimate sort of moral principle. And this represents Kohlberg's, I think, sixth stage of moral development. So that's about it for Kohlberg and for our manager Jim, who was, in my opinion, in stage 3. But as long as you gave your reasons for why you thought he was in stage 4, I will accept it, because you could interpret it that way, although I still think it was stage 3. All right. Next time I'll see you, I'll talk about Jill. All right. Bye-bye.